that connects the battery to the electric motor using these components. They are all tested here inside before they are brought out. So before a vehicle is ready to be worked on, we assess everything. We assess the state of we lose the engine entirely, take it apart and study everything and be sure that the integrity of the components are still intact. If there's any component we need to move out of the engine, we'll move it. Even if those ones are not necessarily the ones that we will remove entirely. There might be some parts that are weak already, like some gears that have eaten up, their teeth have eaten up, or the fiber may not be very effective anymore. So we replace all of those components on the engine and wash it well, clean it, and sometimes we repaint it as well. And then as well, the vehicle body, because it has been exposed and used for a long time, we also clean up the engine, the entire vehicle, and then make it ready for some fabrication, because there are some fabrication work, some welding, cutting, drilling that goes on inside it before we bring the kit out. So all those like where the battery will sit and where the controller will sit, how the electric motor will couple to the new transmission that we're going to produce after the cleaning, all those things are arranged on the vehicle. The major components in the new system is both the electric motor and the battery. The battery being the power source now, and the electric motor being the engine. So everything that is attached to it is what helps to take the power from the battery in the way it needs to the electric motor, and to ensure that there is adequate control. If I want to speed up, I'm able to do that. If I want to reverse, I'm able to do that. If I want to brake, I'm able to do that, and all of those things. So what we take out essentially is everything that has to do with the combustion system, like the piston and everything that is attached with it, and then all those timing systems to make sure that to connect the ignition, that's the spark plug system, to time it with the engine, the piston, the rotation, and so on. All of those things are removed.
For electric cars to work in any country, then electricity has to be readily available. Unfortunately, Nigeria can't boast of having a constant supply of electricity. In Nigeria, almost 80% of those with access to electricity power gets less than 12 hours a day, and about 47% of the population don't even have access to power at all. And this challenge has made Revive Earth Limited to come up with an electricity charging infrastructure that is not dependent on the current electricity generation in Nigeria.
We've come up with a system now that is not going to be so heavily dependent on the present generated electricity for the country as a whole. We're looking at going into solar and all those other combined renewable energy sources that we can harness and use it to charge, to power the charging stations. We call our charging stations, instead of having large charging stations where you have like multiple stands inside one, we have a simpler version where we can have it distributed across a large area. So instead of having 10 in the place, we have that 10 along at strategic places along a route, or maybe at different routes, and we call it the swapping booth. So these swapping booths will now hold batteries, charged batteries, or they are able to just, if you want, you could just slide in your batteries there and they'll charge, and then afterwards you can take them out from there and continue your business. Or you can come there whenever your battery depletes, and then when you match your battery ID to the battery there on the booth, you're able to take a charged battery and then put your own there, because your own would have been ascertained to match the exact specification of the one in the booth.
Funding the booth, which he plans to put in strategic areas, seems to be a difficult task for Revive Health, and has streamlined their process of production, which involves not getting sophisticated machines for production. According to Chukwuemeka, getting investors would mean getting people who have visions.
The greatest challenge so far has been funding, because most times when you tell people the possibilities here, especially people who tend to see the business aspect, what they really see is the challenge with charging. That we don't even have electricity. Nigeria is only able to generate very low quantity, commensurate with the large demand that is currently available, and most of which are domestic demand. So then where we see the limitation now in the project is in the funding for the charging infrastructure. So the challenge now is to actually get funding to set up these booths at strategic places. And then this is going to require individuals as well who have vision in that area. We've been able to talk with some people in that aspect, but then we've not sealed any deal yet. But that funding aspect is the major challenge, because it also affects our processes. Even though we have been able to streamline some of our processes, we're still not able to get sophisticated machines that allow us to cut production time.
Chukwuemeka's invention has made maintenance of tricycle cost-effective, as they have low maintenance and give zero emission. Chukwuemeka therefore pleads with the government to encourage creative young people like him to push the economy to a better place.
The difference between this and the regular one is the regular one uses gasoline. That's one. Then secondly, the regular one costs more to operate, because on the average, a driver who drives a tricycle, for instance, spends about 2,000 naira every day on fueling, which is equivalent with the same day, that is equivalent to if the driver was using our electric version, he will spend 800 naira instead, which is at over 60% cut in the cost. What Innocent is doing is something great, and that's something that we should encourage more people to come into. As a government, we could encourage young people to come into this by supporting them, if not even giving them money, but making sure that the necessary policies and regulations are put in place.
While young people are equipping themselves with skills beyond the classroom and getting exposed to new and different career paths, this presents their efforts in transforming Africa. And that's all we can take on this episode on Startups. Thank you for watching. I am Tamilore Akinkolye. Bye for now.
La ciudad y se ubica en una antigua mina de oro. Uno no sabe el montón de datos que existe, además de que se forma una red mundial.
We are on schedule with calibration.
You know, the time I would send today.
Una explosión en cualquier parte del mundo, la red tiene que ser capaz de capturarla. La sismología lo que le va a decir es si es una onda típica de una explosión nuclear. El lugar se lo puede decir con más exactitud, el tipo de magnitud fue tanto, cantidad de kilotón fue de tanto, o sea, le va a decir eso. Ha habido mucho cambio de tecnología, entonces eso es uno de los objetivos del CTBTO, construir las capacidades de los países. ¿Y cómo se aprende? Con cursos. Claro que nos ayuda en el trabajo de nosotros aquí. Todas las capacitaciones con programas de localización nosotros usamos para saber cuál es la amenaza que existe en el país.
We live in a global world with global issues, and global issues cannot be dealt with only a handful of countries because they traditionally deal with those technologies. And if you want an issue that's dealt with by the whole planet, you can have a forum where people sit and a handful make decisions and others follow.
And sport diplomats can help.
And emerging countries, we need their participation. We need to educate people on this technology that lead to the verification of CTBT.
Viéndolo en el país, uno se siente solo, pero sabe que es un grupo internacional que le está poniendo un punto final a las explosiones nucleares. Para el país es importante que se siga monitoreando y que quiere darle un fin a las explosiones nucleares. Queda uno contento que está contribuyendo para el mundo, para la paz.
On the news, Tinubu congratulates Oyebanji on historic re-election victory in Ekiti State. APC records landslide wins in Nasarawa, Enugu, Kano and Ondo State by-elections, while PDP claims victory in Rivers State. Nigeria's manufacturer tax payments plunged 68% under new laws. Hello, welcome to News Now on TV360 Nigeria. I'm Simisola Agun. Registered voters across Ekiti State have taken part in a closely watched governorship election that could shape the state's direction for the next 4 years. Ekiti State Governor Biodun Oyebanji has thanked residents for re-electing him for a second term in Saturday's governorship election, pledging to work harder and deliver better governance. Speaking on Sunday, shortly after INEC declared him winner with 319,224 votes, Oyebanji described his victory as a validation of the economic reforms of President Bola Tinubu's administration, which he said had enabled states to better serve their people. He also promised to strengthen his administration's poverty alleviation programs and improve the welfare of residents across the state. The governor said he had reached out to the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Wole Oluyede, and the African Democratic Congress, Dare Ejide, urging collaboration in advancing the development of Ekiti State.
It is a remarkable shift in the political culture of the Ekiti people. Unlike the previous electoral cycles, which were marked with disturbing violence and apprehensions, the election has come and gone without a single violent incident. With this, Ekiti has taken a new course, and it's the dawn of a new era where consensus building, peace, and harmony has become the trading currency of our political engagements. I therefore want to commend the Ekiti electorate for choosing us and the tendency that we represent. I thank you for your confidence in us and our party. With this renewed mandate, I can only assure you that the best has just begun. We will rededicate ourselves even more strongly in implementing a shared prosperity agenda. We will speed up various projects and programs that are ongoing. We will work harder and smarter to serve you better. We will not relent until poverty and inequality become a thing of the past in our land. This is the first time in East Ekiti State that a government will win back to back. So Ekiti people are politically enlightened. They know what works for them, and they know when to change a government that is not working. So if in their own wisdom they have decided to employ us, that means that we are doing something right. And I cannot attribute it to a single factor. In fairness, it depends. It's like an amper. You just pick your choice. We had contract with the people based on our 6 pillars of administration that straddles across 6 important thematic areas. And in the last close to 4 years, we have diligently pursued the implementation of these programs. And I'm sure that if the people have seen the difference that our policies has made in their life. And based on that, they have renewed the mandate. So as far as we are concerned, they are enlightened enough to know what works for them. And they have made a very clear choice that we have a system that is working, a system that is delivering value to us, and there's no point throwing away a winning team.
Well, the re-election of Governor Biodun Oyebanji in Ekiti State has drawn significant attention as he becomes the first governor in the state's history to win back-to-back elections. The result has raised questions about the impact of his performance, party strength, and the state of the opposition. To discuss this development, I'm joined by a political affairs analyst, Mewa Akintunde. Thank you very much for coming on the news, Mr. Akintunde. Now, Governor Oyebanji is the first Ekiti governor to secure back-to-back electoral victories. Now, would you attribute this achievement more to his performance in office or to the signal growing dominance by the ruling party? And what does this signal on the state of opposition parties?
Okay, thank you very much. First, let me start by congratulating the people of Ekiti State for having, even among the opposition, they were that this is one of the best elections we ever had in this country. So I congratulate them. Now, what does this signal, as you ask, what signals that people of Ekiti State have given, endorsement to their governor who has been there for 3 years, to continue and continue the work he's doing. They already have assessed him and they realize that he's doing well. And also add to that assessment, a couple of times in the last 1-2 years. Now I've also seen development programs going on there. I travel a little bit widely and I compare what is happening to what's happening in other states. So in terms of approval, yes, approval rating of well over 85%. It's really, really very impressive. And I congratulate the governor and the people of Ekiti State that. But again, you will also have, people have also heard about the conversation that is not all well in Ekiti State yet. I don't think there's anywhere where it can be all well. There are people here and there who are saying that the governor has not done as well as he should have done. But there are landmark projects that he has executed that one has to commend him. For instance, he now has an airport which has been in the pipeline since the first tenure of Governor Ayofayoshi. So I say that the governor has done very impressively. That's why he got this mandate. Yeah, that's why he got his endorsement. The conduct of the election is also something that should be commended. And one is only hoping that this will happen again in 2027 when we have the general election. First, when we have the Osun State election in August, it's about 2 months from now, I hope that we'll improve on what we are commending in the state now. And then there will be a lot more improvement again in 2027. These are the previous elections. In terms of the state of the opposition, before this election, actually, every analyst has predicted that it was going to be a victory for both the PD, both APC and Governor Oyebanji particularly. I don't know whether anybody expected that there would be victory for any other political party, but the margin is something that is quite, amazing in local government areas, and it won in all the wards except 2 in the entire state, which surpassed the record that Ayofayoshi had when he won the second term. Ayofayoshi won all the local governments in the state, but he don't win as many wards as Oyebanji has done now. Now for the opposition, I think this is another sign for the opposition to also put their hearts together. Since the opposition began to gather together, we've had some elections that you signal to them that the battle is really very fierce and they have to up their game. First, we had the election in FCT that many people are thinking that the opposition will have some upper hand. They never did. We've had a state election now. and some other by-elections on Saturday as well. And you can see, even apart from the state, out of all the by-elections that are considered across in some parts of the country, the opposition only had one seat, and you cannot even call that entire opposition, because the Wike DP in Rivers State, you cannot really consider as an opposition to the PC ruling party. So I see there's a lot of grumbling by the opposition party, respectively so among politicians. But I don't think that they also have done enough to be able to convince the public about the offering, that they are offering something better than what the incumbent has.
Now, I have to ask at this point, Mr. Akintunde, now you have assessed Oyebanji's performance in his first term as impressive. Now, what actors do you think, or should the governor prioritize to consolidate on his achievement and address existing challenges?
One of it is road construction, infrastructure. I hear a number of people in the state saying that the road construction that have been attributed to Oyebanji have been largely in the urban areas of Ekiti. And there are a lot of other areas in the hinterland where the roads are really very horrible than they were before he came to government. So I think he has to identify, he has to do a lot more there. I can say that he's done quite well in terms of agriculture. There are farm settlements that are being given to those who are interested. But they are, he said he tried to encourage young people, rather than being jobless, young people to go into farming. Like I said, I go to it fairly regularly, so I see a lot of these farm settlements, just like we had in the days of the Western Region in Ekiti State. Ekiti State is trying to take advantage of the fact that it's an agrarian society, and that, I think, this governor has done pretty well. People complain about electricity. Although electricity is more of it's in the concurrent list now. So means that the state government and the private sector can develop electricity. That's one area that I've had a lot of complaints with people that I think the governor should look into in the coming year. And tourism is another area that I think the governor can also take advantage of. There is the Kogosi One Spring. Interestingly, the governor is the Kogosi. He's done so well. I've been to that facility in the last 6 months, and he's done so well without Kogosi. But unfortunately, because there are other structures that should be not only the tourist center, but other structures leading from the state capital to Kogosi are not in place yet. That, I think, is one of the things you focus on in the second term, because tourism is one area that can fetch a lot for any government that invests in it with
I'm afraid I have to cut you short
sector.
here, Mr. Moyo Akintunde. Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing your insights on the outcome of the Ekiti governorship election and what Ekiti residents can expect in the years ahead. It was nice talking to you. And still on the outcome of the Ekiti governorship election, President Bola Tinubu has congratulated Governor Biodun Oyebanji on his victory, adding that the governor's election reflects public confidence in his administration. In a statement by his special advisor on information and strategy, Bayo Onanuga, the president urged Oyebanji to remain inclusive in governance and magnanimous in victory as he embarks on a second term. He further called on other candidates to support the governor in the interest of state's development. Meanwhile, the Southwest APC has commended Ekiti voters and for re-electing Governor Biodun Oyebanji, describing the turnout as a strong show of support for good governance. In a statement in Ibadan, the party said the result shows Ekiti people make informed choices in the interest of their state and the country. It also called Oyebanji's victory a reflection of appreciation for his leadership and that of President Bola Tinubu. Still on election matters, the All Progressives Congress APC has recorded sweeping victories across 4 states in Saturday's by-elections, winning key senatorial, House of Representatives and state assembly seats in Ondo, Sarawa, Kano and Kebbi State, while the People's Democratic Party (PDP) retained the Rivers State Southeast Senatorial District seat. The elections were conducted to fill vacancies caused by deaths, appointments, and other developments that have left seats open in the National Assembly and state legislatures. According to results declared by the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC), the APC secured the landslide victories in the senatorial and legislative contest, underscoring its strength ahead of the 2027 general election. We'll take a short break. When News Now returns. 18 persons missing as Qatar gas plant explosion injures 54. News will continue shortly.
Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal.
How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
When you go into public office, you must be ready to answer the people.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. Lake Chad Basin, the border area to Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On TV360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, fact, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians say in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grants for ranching.
TV360, dissecting the issues.
Welcome back to the newsroom. Here's a recap of our top stories. Ekiti State Governor Biodo Ibanji has thanked presidents for re-electing him for a second term in Saturday's governorship election, pledging to work harder and deliver better governance. Speaking on Sunday, shortly after INEC declared him winner with 319,224 votes, Ibanji described his victory as a validation of the economic reform of President Bola Tinubu's administration, which he said had enabled the state to better serve their people. We also informed you that the All Progressives Congress APC has recorded sweeping victory across 4 states in Saturday's by-elections, winning key senatorial House of Representatives and State Assembly seats in Ondo, Nasarawa, Kano, and Kebbi states, while the People's Democratic Party (PDP) retained the Rivers Southeast Senatorial District seat. In case you missed any of our news bulletins, or for more updates, you can catch us on Limerick World TV and ABO TV, or log on to our website on www.tv360nigeria.com. You can also follow us on our social media platforms on X, Instagram, and YouTube at TV360 Nigeria, or download our mobile app on Google Play Store, Huawei Gallery, and Apple Store. On Facebook, we're at TV360 Online.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, madam.
My name is Adero. I am not sick. I just need you to help put your stamp on this medical report. I want to tender it at my office as a sick leave. I'll pay 10,000 naira.
Ma'am, that is impersonation. I'm not a doctor.
God, be like this English no go pay. I go increase the money to 20,000 naira. I beg. You know, if I give you that 20,000, as you wide so, you know, if it help your condition more. So, you know, say you spread.
As I spread like virus, I'll be.
You talk. Come
out! If person come to the hospital, talk say make you give fake medical report, make you take collect sick leave. Talk and say no, na corruption, not in my country.
Corruption not in my country.
Stop corruption now.
Let's switch to business news. Okoyemi Osheni joins us with the latest. Over to you, Okoyemi.
Thank you, Sim. Welcome to business news. Nigeria's manufacturers' company income tax payment fell sharply by 68.25% year-on-year to 74.48 billion naira in the first quarter of 2026, raising concerns about the sector's resilience amid the nation's new tax regime, weak demand, and high operating costs. Data from the National Bureau of Statistics shows payment dropped from 234.59 million naira in the first quarter of 2025, a decline of 160.11 billion naira. Overall, company income tax collections declined 31.05% year-on-year, though manufacturing recorded a steeper drop than the national average. Well, let's now head to Borno, where the state government remains committed to expanding investment in ICT to drive digital transformation, improve service delivery, and create opportunities for young people. In an interview with TV360 Nigeria in Maiduguri, the Executive Secretary of Borno State Information and Communication Technology Development Agency said the Borno state government recognizes the role of technology in governance and development and will continue investing in digital infrastructure, innovation, and skills training. He added that the agency has recorded progress in digital literacy, e-governance, and expanding access to ICT facilities across the states.
Why we started with digital literacy is the reason I earlier mentioned. First, we want the whole of Borno to be saturated digitally. The basic, they must have to get the basic before going to the next level. And because of the insurgency, the Borno is left behind educationally and technology-wise. That is why the governor gave his attention first to train people, all and sundry, irrespective of inclination, tribe, section, educational background, so that they will be digitally literate first. Without being digitally literate, other aspects of digital transformation will not come into effect.
The Nigerian equities market began the week on a positive note, with the benchmark index gaining 0.96%, with the market cap rising to 157.78 trillion naira. Now, among the top performance, Guarantee Trust Holding Company led the gainers chart, with its share price advancing by 10% to close at 127 naira 10 kobo per share. It was followed closely by First Holdco, also recording a 10% gain. Now, by the close of trading on the Nigerian exchange, investors exchanged 475 billion shares in 63,480 deals, with a total market value of over 36 billion naira. Now let's switch to global market, where stocks were largely steady while oil prices eased on Monday. Now the move followed report from mediators that progress had been made in peace talks between the United States and Iran, helping to ease concerns that efforts to end the conflict could be at risk. So it left our international stocks now in the gains, as you can see from the screen behind me. Now, meanwhile, in the foreign exchange market, the naira traded at 1,400 naira to the US dollar, 1,870 naira to the pound, and 1,610 naira to the euro on the parallel market. And that's it on both business and stock market updates. Back to you, Simi, for the rest of the news.
Thank you, Payemi, for the update. And on the foreign scene, at least 54 people have been injured and 18 others remain missing after an explosion tore through Qatar's key natural gas export terminal on Sunday night as workers attempted to resume operations following earlier disruptions linked to the war with Iran. The blast occurred at the Ras Laffan industrial area and raised concerns over potential disruptions to global energy markets, as Qatar is one of the world's largest natural gas producers. The extent of the damage is unclear. Authorities initially reported only a few injuries, but later the Interior Ministry confirmed significantly higher casualty figures. Violence broke out in Colombia's third largest city of Cali, where protesters burned American flags and clashed with riot police after a Trump-endorsed hard-right candidate won the presidential election by a razor-thin margin. Police fired tear gas in an attempt to disperse a crowd of thousands, some of whom reportedly threw bricks and metal bars in anger at the victory of Abelardo de la Espriella. With almost all polling centers reporting, de la Espriella secured 49.66% of the vote, compared with the left-wing Senator Ivan Cepida's 48.70%. And on sports, a surge in goals has marked the early stages of the 2026 FIFA World Cup, with 8 already recorded just 10 days into the tournament. The latest came on Sunday when Saudi Arabia's Hassan Al-Tambati scored an own goal in his side's 4-0 defeat to Spain. That total puts the expanded competition on course to challenge the all-time record of 12 own goals set at the 2018 World Cup in Russia. With 48 teams and 104 matches in this edition, the figure is expected to climb further as the tournament progresses. And at least 3 countries have already been eliminated from the ongoing 2026 FIFA World Cup. Tunisia became the latest side to exit after a heavy 4-0 defeat to Japan on Monterrey on Sunday, joining Haiti and Turkey as the first teams to be knocked out of the tournament. The Carthage Eagles, who had already suffered a 5-1 loss to Sweden in their opening Group F match, were confirmed out after failing to collect a single point from the first 2 games. That's our News Now bulletin. Thank you for watching. I'm Simbisola Adigun. We'll see you again next time.
TV360 will give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians are saying in this part of the world. A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it, so you can understand it, and use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
TV360, dissecting the issues.
Hello and welcome. I am Deji Badmasi. Civic Tech Organization Budget has just released its 2026 analysis of the federal government approved budget for this year. And of course, its findings are actually not palatable. They're not palatable at all. Now, despite Nigeria's rising budgets, development outcomes remain weak and implementation gaps persist. That's according to budget. Successive budgets now have actually grown significantly in nominal terms, with ambitious revenue projections, but execution challenges remain, especially in capital expenditure, where many projects are delayed or rolled over. Let's take a look, for instance, at the Nigerian government 2026 budget overview. Now, the total expenditure for the 2026 budget is 68.32 trillion naira. This is the highest budget Nigeria has ever recorded in history. It's the highest we've ever had at any time. And it reflects, of course, the scale of planned government spending for the fiscal year. On the revenue side, the government, of course, expects to generate, that's it, 36.87 trillion naira. Now, you look at this, this is just almost about half of this. So the government wants to spend 68.32 trillion naira, and what it hopes to raise in terms of revenue is 36.87 trillion naira. So that actually highlights the significant gap now between income and planned expenditure. The result is a budget deficit of about 31.45 trillion naira. So you have a budget deficit of 31.45 trillion naira. The next question is, where is this money going to come from? How does the government make up? How does the government generate this to make up for the total expenditure? Of course, that budget deficit, of course, underscores continued reliance on borrowing and fiscal balancing measures to fund national obligations. Now, in terms of development spending, capital allocation, of course, got 32.28 trillion naira. That's quite massive on the face of it. But that would also be dependent on if the government is able to generate, to meet its revenue target, and is able to borrow this huge amount of money. So for the government to spend 32.28 trillion naira would actually depend, as I said, on the government raising this amount of money in terms of the revenue that it expects to come in, and then being able to borrow this huge sum of money. And some people have said, look, this capital allocation is quite ambitious because we know that at the end of the day, as we've had on several occasions, even the budget of last year, for instance, at some point, we were told that towards the end of last year, that the government had not generated even up to 30% of its revenue target. So this is a huge revenue target for the government, and for the government to be able to spend this huge amount of money on capital allocation now, that's in terms of infrastructure and all of that, it has to struggle to raise that amount of money. So these amounts, that's the 32.28 trillion naira, actually represents funds now, as I said, earmarked for infrastructure and growth-driven projects across key sectors of the economy. Now, budget notes that debt servicing and recurring spending continue to dominate budget implementation, leaving limited space for infrastructure and social investment. It also raises concern over what it calls unrealistic revenue assumptions and legislative insertions that distort priorities and inflate budget figures. I mean, those, of course, budget identified in its report. Now, according to budget again, these structural issues have actually widened the gap between approved budgets and actual development impacts, raising fresh concerns about fiscal discipline, credibility, and implementation effectiveness. Now, this is for the federal government. Remember, the various states of the country, 36 of them would naturally come out. Would come out with their own budget, of course. And the same problems that the federal budget faces, those same problems, the state budgets actually face them. But of course, the analysis of budget is on the federal government 2026 budget. So we're going to take a short break now. And when we come back, I will be speaking with the head of research and policy advisory of budget. Stay with us and don't go away.
TV360 will give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians say in this part of the world. A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranting.
TV360, dissecting the issues.
Welcome back. Joining me now to dissect that report by budget is the head of research and policy advisory of the organization, Engineer Adejoke Akimbode. Thank you very much, Engineer Akimbode, for talking to us on TV360. Let's look at your analysis now. Quite forthright and quite straightforward. Our budget this year, of course, no doubt, the highest we've ever had in the history of the country. One of the issues, key issues that you raised in your in your analysis is the issue of implementation, and then very importantly, how the government intends to generate that huge amount of revenue. Almost half of the budget. Now, try to explain those concerns so that we can really understand, because it's an ambitious budget. The revenue, of course, is also ambitious, but meeting those targets are always difficult, as we've seen with budgets in the past.
Thank you very much for having me. When we talk about revenue generation, it's not just us. We know that it's good to be ambitious. It's good to project the amount that you think the country can generate in a year, right? But if you look at how the country has performed in revenue generation in the past, then I think government needs to be realistic. They've never it's been very difficult for us to meet our revenue projections over the year. For example, we are still implementing the 2025 budget. As at June 2025, what Nigeria generated last year was 10.9 trillion naira, and they had projected around 36 trillion naira for revenue for last year. So when we couldn't even generate half of the projection by June, then definitely by the end of December, there's no way we could have generated the whole amount. And that's how it has been over the years. So if we are projecting a revenue of around 36 trillion naira for 2026, there is no assurance that we are going to generate up to that by the end of the year. And it's because of our revenue projection that increases our deficit. And of course, at the end of the day, the more deficit we have, the lesser money that you have for capital investments. So it is, it's just looking at our performance over the years to say that, our revenue projection is never been realistic. They're not always realistic in revenue generation. And of course, I want to talk about implementation of capital projects. I mean, the issue now is even as of today, we are still implementing the 2025 capital projects.
Yes.
Right. So when we want to start implementing 2026 capital expenditure, and they kept on moving it from March 31st to June 30th. Now they've said they are moving it again to the end of September. So when do you now want to start implementing 2026 capital investments? Right. So, and let's even assume that yes, they start implementing 2026 capital investment. We've always had issue of abandoned projects, completed projects, and that's because by the time they, pay our debts, recurrent expenditure is a must to expect to pay, right? You have to pay salaries, overhead costs. Then there's little money left for capital investments, and that is why you see a lot of uncompleted projects, and that's because instead of government to say, okay, so the money we have now, can we just focus on, let's say, these 50 projects, that we know that this amount of money can actually, finish these projects. They spread it across several projects and probably, start releasing funds 30%, 40%, 20% to different projects. And at the end of the year, you have several projects that are uncompleted, right? So instead of maybe putting like thousands of projects in the budget in a year, can we focus on, let's say, 100 projects, 200 projects that government is very sure that they can actually, complete instead of having abandoned projects. And that's why you look at our budget over the years, you see projects same set of projects occurring in the budget ongoing, because a lot of projects are ongoing for several years. And that's because they release little funds in a year for this project, right? So I think the first thing for the government is to be realistic with our budget. I mean, it's good to be ambitious. Nigeria is not like this revenue that we project. It's not like it's too much for us to make. But in as much as we've never made the actual amount that we always project, can we just sit down? Government should sit down and actually look at their books again and be realistic with their budgets projections.
Now, I mean, you look at the budget deficit, almost 32 trillion naira, and that clearly suggests that we're definitely going to borrow more, because it's difficult to see how this deficit can actually, that gap now can actually be plugged without borrowing. And so obviously, we're definitely, the government will have to borrow more, right, to be able to plug that deficit.
Yes, definitely they will borrow more, and in the budget they had actually indicated where the deficit will be coming from. They said that we'll borrow, of course, there will be domestic borrowings, there will be external borrowings, that's foreign borrowings, right? And also we have there are some assets that they want to sell. So they've said there will be revenue from sales of assets and some privatization proceeds as well, and also some loans that are tied.
They always say that anyway.
Yes, so they didn't really break down the specific places where these borrowings these deficit financing sources we actually come from, but they've categorized them into these three categories. Obviously, but for us to be able to to finance our deficit, we will definitely borrow. I mean, when President Tinubu was presenting the budget to the National Assembly, he had even, requested for a 6 billion external borrowing, to that same day, which was approved by the National Assembly. So of course, to finance our deficits, they always borrow funds, but what they don't do is to give us the specific breakdown of where these borrowings will come from, right? And I mean, and it's not a crime it's not a crime to take loans. It's not a crime to borrow money. It's just that how do they utilize these funds? What do they use these borrowings, these loans for? That should be our main concern, actually.
Is it, there's something I've always thought about. Is it difficult to budget based on what we actually have, based on, the amount of resources available to us? Is it not a wise thing to do? Is it something difficult to do? Because every year the budget keeps going up. But the truth is that you look at the available, what is available to us now in terms of finance, you begin to ask yourself, why can't we plan around what we have?
Because I don't think it's difficult to plan around what we have, right? And even if you want to plan beyond what we have, Nigeria is not the only country that borrows money to finance budgets, right? So even if you are planning beyond what you have, it should be there should be capex in the amount of money you want to borrow. And that there are policies to this. It's just that the government do not follow most of these policies, right? And if borrowing way beyond what you have is not bad, but what are you utilizing these loans for? Right? If citizens can see that, okay, so this is how much the government is borrowing, and these are the investments that they actually, use these funds for. A lot of projects, a lot of infrastructures that they can actually use these loans for, that can actually pay back these loans in a couple of years. If you invest in projects that can actually, even if they cannot pay back the complete loans that was spent on them, right? At least some or part of these loans. But because governments do not effectively and efficiently utilize these loans, and that's where the issue lies in Nigeria, right? So our budgeting system has so many flaws. Right from the planning stage, yes, they can actually plan around our resources, what we have. But then if they feel like they want to go beyond our resources, the projections, they want to increase the projections, there should be limitation to the increment in the projection. It's not just calling each amount of figures every year as our budget, so that we've never met the revenue projections. We've never met. Our capital expenditure is always at the bottom end of everything, because at the end of the day, after paying salaries, after paying your overhead costs, then there is little left for capital investments. And the only way citizens can actually gain back from the government is from capital investment. That is how government can give back to the citizens. So at the end of the day, there's really nothing or little or nothing that the citizens is benefiting from the government. We have our key sectors like health, education, that governments, do not even pay attention to as much as they should. So it's something that the government, I believe they know what to do, right? They actually know what to do when it comes to our budgeting system. But it's just that this is an habit that has been going over the years. They just, sit down and just call one figure and say, oh, this is our budget for 2026. This is how much revenue is going to be. And at the end of the day, you already know that this thing is not realistic enough. So you can plan around what you have, or maybe a little above what you have, but there should be limits to what you are projecting.
And most times, and what we've seen over the years, especially when it comes to oil production benchmarks, we project beyond what we can actually produce. Something else, that we've always seen with our budgets, there's this fanfare anytime it comes to the presentation of the budget. The figures are thrown out there. Everybody sees the figure and everything. But when it comes to capital releases, everywhere goes silent. The government goes silent. We do not know how much, for instance, has been released to what ministry and what project and all of that. It's something that you highlight in your analysis, and that's very important, that there needs to be transparency and openness when it comes to capital releases so that people know what has been released for what. Can you expatiate on that, please?
Yeah, so because a lot of times when people look at some budget figures, okay, so they allocated an amount of money to Ministry of Education, for example, right? At the end of the year, people just put that figure in their head and believe, a lot of people believe that, oh, so this is how much government allocated to the Ministry of Education in 2025. But what they do not know is that that amount did not actually get to the Ministry of Education. So probably at the end of the day, it's just 40% of funds that got to the Ministry of Education. But because we have a budget implementation reports, right, that ideally should be released on a quarterly basis. But if you look at the budget implementation reports, a lot of times it's not always explicit enough, and they do not, they do not actually state the amount that was released at the end of the day to each ministries. And this is not good enough because citizens will not be able to understand that, yes, they allocated, let's say, 100 billion to Ministry of Education in 2025, but only 30 billion got to Ministry of Education. Right. So at the end of the day, most of these projects that are in the for each ministries, for each MDAs, they are unable to implement them because they did not get full release of funds to them. So what they need to our budget implementation report needs to be very explicit in how much each ministries got at the end of the year for us to ascertain that, okay, so truly Ministry of Education only got 30% of from allocation in the year, and that is why the project, these are the amounts of project could actually, fund in the year. So because I don't think there's any ministry that actually gets its total allocation in a year. Because of course, where do we want where will government get the funds to pay full allocation to ministries when we could not meet our revenue?
But the problem is that citizens do not know this. Most citizens do not know this because people just run with those figures that have been released. And sometimes when some ministries or some projects get stalled, people just don't understand what's gone wrong.
Yeah, that is where we've always preached transparency and accountability from the government side. If government is actually, if they don't have anything to hide, if they're transparent enough, and of course they should be, they should be accountable to us, to citizens. So if they're transparent enough, and let us know that, oh, so Ministry of Education only got 20% of their allocation, I think citizens will be okay. So it's not the Ministry of Education's fault that they couldn't implement their budgets quickly in a year. Because government on their part, they are not even, whatever they're hiding, they are not transparent to the citizens. So citizens will not even believe when MPs are saying, oh, we didn't get our full allocation, this is how much government released, right? So it just boils down to being transparent. There's nothing, ideally, there's nothing for government to, why are they hiding these figures? I know how many years it took to civil society organizations to fight before government started publishing its budget documents. In the past, nobody even knows what is in the budget. Nobody knows. They just tell us the figure and that is it. But budget and other sectors, advocated for this, they fought for it in the past, and then they started publishing these documents. So that's one step being transparent to the government side, but it is not enough. Because everything that pertains to our budget should actually be transparent. And of course, to the last cover that the government spends in our budget, they should be accountable to citizens.
And we're talking about federal budgets here. I don't know if you have taken a look at some of some of the budgets of states.
Yeah, so we also, try as much as possible to analyze state budgets. We have a department, a budget, our own government and OGIP that actually deals with state budgets, and work with states more. So look at of course, most states actually have their budgets on their websites, and you look at their figures too. So of course, it's also difficult for states to implement their full budget in a year. So I will say that the same issue that we have with the federal government also the states can relate to that as well. But their budgets are out there. that anybody can pick, and it's not as bulky as the federal government, but the federal government's budget is over 2,500 pages. But the state budget is not as bulky as that. But of course, we analyze state budgets, we look at their figures, how much they allocate to MDAs, how much they're able to release, how much the kind of projects that they also implement. And we also have another department, budget tracker, that actually tracks constituency projects in states. I think we should be in like 30 or 32 states now. We have state officers that go around the states to look at projects that are being implemented from the budget as well. So we look at state budgets, we analyze their reports and see how they are also performing. But the truth is, if you look at it, the state governments are actually closer to citizens than the federal government. And I think the way people pay more attention to federal governments and most times ignore state governments. And I feel like it should be the other way around. Because at the end of the day, your first contact is your local government, then your state government before the federal government. So the state governments citizens need to hold the state government accountable the way they are holding the federal government accountable. They should not neglect state government. They should, ensure that the way they are following federal government money, budgets should follow state money as well.
So sometimes I even wonder if people know that local governments are supposed to prepare their own budgets. Nobody bothers to talk about them because honestly, whether we like it or not, it's a third tier of government. Shouldn't they present and prepare and present their own budgets now to their local people so they can really see what is coming in, what is going out, and for what?
Of course, ideally they should, but I don't think people remember anything about local governments, right? And that's because, over the years, their money has always come through from the state government. But now that, they fought for this, we fought for local government autonomy over the years. But I'm not sure that citizens understand that their first point of contact is actually the local government. Nobody really pays attention to it. And no matter how little their allocation is, it's actually something. It's also, because at the end of the day, this money belongs to you and I, it belongs to citizens, right? But citizens do not even remember local governments most times. And if you look at it, you rarely hear local governments, maybe what they do, you rarely hear them in the news. So I think beyond citizens as well, I would also say our journalists also needs to pay attention to local governments and, report on them, speak about them. And that will give citizens some form of information to educate citizens that, so that our local government is actually, we need to hold them accountable as well. Because local governments also, they owe it to citizens to, talk about what they're doing, talk about their budgets, and, present their budgets to citizens and say, okay, yes, in our local governments, in the world we have with these local governments, this is what we intend to do. These are the projects that we intend to do. This is how much they've allocated to us. But nobody pays attention to local. I mean, people don't even pay attention to state governments like that. So how much more, local governments?
So from overall now, from your analysis of not just the 2026 budget, even previous budgets, 2025, 2024, what would you say are some of the key issues that we need to change about our budgeting system as a whole, so that they can become so that our budgeting system can become more effective and more impactful?
Yeah, so our budgets, there are several issues with our budgets. I think the first thing I will talk about is fiscal discipline and policy credibility. I think our fiscal discipline, the executive arm of government, they need to strengthen our fiscal discipline. They need to ensure that they prioritize credible macroeconomic assumptions. They need to ensure that there is strict implementation, right? They need to ensure that there is consistency policy consistency. This will actually, enhance budget effectiveness. Because I think a major, like I mentioned earlier, the major challenge we have in our budget is our revenue projections, especially when it comes to our revenues, right? And at the end of the day, this exposes us to our budget to fiscal risk. So they need to actually strengthen that fiscal discipline as well. Then another thing I would say is that they need to look at our capital expenditure efficiency. They need to strengthen that as well. They need to prioritize our capital investment needs to be prioritized. They need to look at, okay, so we have these projects that we want to implement, let's say they listed like 50 projects, then now they need to list them in order of priority. Instead of spreading the money, the little money that we have across 50 projects, can we pick these 20 important projects and spend this whole amount of money on it and ensure that they actually, there is efficiency in what they are doing. They can complete implementation within a short time of period of time, instead of just spread the money across several projects. Then another thing they need to look at is also when it comes to our ministries, our MDAs, they need to look at the technical capacity and implementation efficiency. They need to ensure that from time to time, the people working in ministries, departments, and agencies are trained. They need to ensure that they have the capacity to actually implement the budget within their MDAs, right? They need to also not just implement the budget. Civil servants need to adopt what we call result-based budgeting and, of course, put in place performance management systems that we actually, because we need something that will link that need to link funding to measurable outputs and outcomes. So it's not just us releasing funds, it's not just government releasing funds for projects now, but can we actually see the impact these projects are having on citizens? What are the outputs? Can we measure the output and the outcomes that we are getting from when we are using these funds for implementation of projects, right? Also, I think another thing I would say is that our media, our assessors and citizens, the media needs to keep talking about the budget. They need to keep promoting transparency, keep promoting accountability, and also citizen engagement. I feel like this period, I'll say that the citizens are tired and it's expected. Everybody's just struggling to survive, right? But that doesn't mean that we should keep quiet and not say anything when it comes to our budget implementation. Because at the end of the day, this thing affects everyone, whether we like it or not. Whether I'm trying to survive in my own little way, you're trying to survive in your own little way. This affects us generally, right? So the media needs to keep amplifying transparency, needs to keep amplifying accountability, and citizens engagement. Citizens needs to keep calling their governments to their representatives to ask questions. And for now, like I say, this 2026 is very important for us. This is a pre-election year, right? So this is actually the time that we should hold our government accountable. So many of the people in positions, they still want to go for election again, contest again next year. So we see them in our faces a lot this period. Campaign have started in some states, right? So you need to ask critical questions and just say, oh, this person has been there, let them just continue. If you feel like another person can perform better than this person, why not? Don't allow anybody to gaslight and say, oh, I can do this. Then after 4 years, you're not going to see them again, right? So media needs to also people that are data-driven and investigative budget reporting. I feel like the media do not maybe they are getting to laid back in their reports, the way they talk about budget implementation in their reports. They do not really talk about it again. They do not report about it again. They need to actually bridge the information gap between the government and the citizens, because the media is very powerful, and they need to actually ensure that they use that power to bring government, to call government to order, right? To demand transparency from the government. So we need the media to use their data journalism to talk about budget as well. And I mean, for example, unlike in the past, right, when we released our federal government, our budget analysis, this report was released on Monday, and it passed. From that same Monday, we start getting media houses that want to talk about the budget, our reports, want to interview us. But today is Thursday, and I can tell that this is the first interview that we're having on this report. And that tells you that people are not paying attention again, because I was telling a colleague yesterday that it's actually very surprising that nobody has reached out to us. No media house has reached out to us since Monday Monday morning, 7 a.m. that we released this report, right? Which is very, very unusual. So I need the media to up their game and not be tired, not be relaxed, to talk about these reports, these figures, And that is how they can actually get citizens to also talk about these things, because they understand it better. And that is why we have taken our time to simplify the budget document. The budget document is over 2,500 pages, and we analyze everything and now compress it in that report that we have. So I need the media to pick it up and speak about it to citizens. And that is how government know that citizens know that they can see what they are doing, and they know they're not going to just feel like, oh, they can behave anyhow. Because one thing is that if citizens are not saying anything, it is a win for the government.
Yeah, I mean, what you have said, what you have said about the media is certainly not debatable at all. Let's just hope that now that we, as TV360, we've taken this up, let's hope that other media houses will join. But there's no question at all that the media needs to do more than enough, and we're not doing enough of this. But finally, let me ask you this final question. Your report actually talked about insertions by National Assembly. That has always been a recurring problem. How bad is it in the 2026 budget?
So for the 2026 budget, we have not actually completed, because what we do, like last year, we did a separate document that's actually spoken to the insertions in the budget, right? But for this year, we have not done that yet. We are still trying to look at the proposed budget and the approved budget to bring out the insertions. So for now, I cannot say how bad it is, right? But definitely there's always insertions in every year. And last year was really, 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 really bad. So this year, I don't know how bad it's going to be, because we've not completed that analysis, because we do it separately to look at compare the proposed budget to the approved budget and see the insertions. But of course, looking at how the proposed budget was around 58 trillion or thereabouts, and the approved budget is now 68 trillion. So you can imagine how the insertion.
All right, I guess we'll just have to leave there. I want to thank you very much for coming on the program, Engineer Adejoke Akimbode, Head of Research and Policy Advisory of the organization. Thanks a lot for your time, and thanks for those explanations. And let's just hope that the media picks up from this point, and that things actually get better, and that we'll report things better, especially on the budget, because it affects everyone. Thanks a lot for your time. We really appreciate it. Well, that's it on the show. We thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
In Nigeria, sugar isn't just taste, it's tradition. It's in our weddings and naming ceremonies. It's in every bottle we raise to celebrate life. But the same sweetness that unites us is slowly undoing us. From classrooms to construction sites, sugary drinks have become our daily fuel. Sold as refreshment, marketed as confidence.
Personally, I take 2, depending on the weather and my stress level. I can take 3 in a day if possible. Yes, I do think about how it affects me, but then I also think about my stress level, because sometimes it's a way for me to cope with stress. That's why I take that much.
I'm not going to say I'm taking much of it, but I just love to sugary, and it's not every day that I actually drink something like that. But I think, so much of sugary things cause diabetes though.
I take 4 of drink in a day. I don't actually think about it because I'm a female, so I think maybe anytime I'm doing my menstrual anything to come out with it since I'm not a guy.
Kò sí nǹkan tó múnú yàn dùn mọ́. Àwọn nǹkan tá a mú yìí náà la fi ń dùnnú ara ní pé múnú ara ẹ dùn, make yourself happy. So àwọn akọ̀wé mú náà pé ká fi múnú ara dùn kò sí àǹfààní kankan tó ṣe fára.
In a generation based on marketing slogans, the line between refreshment and risk has blurred. Sugar isn't the villain in their story, it's the companion.
Sugary drinks are extremely cheap in Nigeria. They are affordable and accessible, and they are marketed in diverse ways. Sugary drinks corporations engage in diverse promotional activities to entice our people, and they specifically entice our youths.
Those sugar-sweetened beverages are almost the gold standard for children consumption in Nigeria. Oh, you're gonna have a birthday party in school. You're gonna take other yellow drinks, other orange-based sodas to the school. And it's been age-old. And part of the reason why these things have become the gold standard for celebrating those things is also a long history of advertising and commercials that have projected these things as appropriate drink. But over the years, science has shown that they're not that appropriate.
When you consume excessive amounts of sugary drinks, what happens is that these are calories. They are what we call empty calories. That means there is no fiber, there is nothing. It's just like you pumping sugar into the bloodstream. And because of that, most of this is converted to fat or is stored as fat. So you have a high number of people coming down with obesity. In the olden days, children used to be very, very slim, but we all know that our children are getting fatter and fatter. In place of things like sandwiches and apples that people used to put in the children's lunch boxes, now you have different types of soda drinks or soft drinks which are added. You find children growing up and developing obesity and hypertension and diabetes even before their parents develop them.
There are some foods that enter the bloodstream very quickly, and that's what we get from all these sweetened beverages, all these soft drinks. They hit the bloodstream very quickly. However, if this keeps happening over and over again, it can also affect the pancreas. That can also lead to insulin resistance. And that's how the person over time will develop type 2 diabetes. So this happens over a very long period. It can take years, 10, 20 years, for this to show.
There are people that they cannot do without seeing a bottle of sugary drinks a day. It comes in different forms, either the cola drinks or the orange ones. When you take it as a routine, you become addicted. There are researches have shown that you can be as addicted to sugary drinks as much as the people that take nicotine get addicted to cigarettes, smoking.
There's a popular saying that you are what you eat, and that underscores the fact that your health is heavily influenced by the kind of diet habit that you keep. And we know from science, from research, that heavy consumption of sugary things makes you more susceptible to diabetes mellitus type 2 and also to obesity.
Diabetes is a multi-systemic disease. Ultimately, it's also a silent killer. It affects the blood vessels that supplies every part of our body. Okay, and that's why when diabetes gets complicated, complication is not limited to just one organ. It's an head-to-foot crisis.
That is the reality for Ronke Wale. Diagnosed with diabetes in 2022, she says her life has never been the same.
But mo wá lọ hospital, wọ́n wá run test, wọ́n sọ pé mo ní diabetes. So, kéèyàn ní diabetes, mi rò bóyá pé nǹkan kékeré ni, èmi ò mọ̀ pé nǹkan tó ń pé ó lè gbéyàn at any time. Tó jẹ́ wípé wọ́n ní kí n máa lo insulin. Insulin tó dẹ̀ ní kí n máa lò tẹ́lẹ̀tẹ́lẹ̀, insulin 6,000, 5,000. Unfortunately, insulin wá di 20,000 naira. Okay, insulin di 20,000 kò ságbára fún mi láti rà mọ́. How do you feel alive?
Living with diabetes in Nigeria exposes you will have to pay from your pocket. It's individual payment. The government is not involved. So it's a huge sum. It costs us so much to manage diabetes, costs us so much to visit the doctor, it costs us so much to run the test, it costs us so much to buy consumable like the glucometer strips. It costs us so much to eat the healthy food that we are actually. It costs us so much to even drink the water that is potable, that is clean water. So it's a whole lot of expense without government participation in it.
It's a lifelong treatment, especially when there are complications. It can be expensive. Talk about clinic visits. You have to take transportation every time to get to the hospital. You have to pay for consultation. You have to buy medication. And medication has become so expensive now.
The fallout is not on the corporations selling sweetness. It's on Nigeria's ailing hospitals and overworked medical staff.
The burden is heavy. It's heavy on the system, it's heavy on the economy, and it's heavy on individuals and their families that suffer these non-communicable diseases.
The price of sweetness isn't paid just at the counter. It's paid in pain, in poverty, in premature funerals.
Sweet, fizzy, refreshing. Before it conquered Africa, sugar traveled the world. From 18th century pharmacy tonics to Coca-Cola's debut in the year 1886, to its first trains rolling through Lagos in the 1950s. By independence, 7-Up had its first bottle, tying sweetness to freedom. Decades later, over 100 brands crowd $1 billion market. In 2021, Nigeria took a bold step, a 10 naira per liter tax on sugary drinks. By mid-2022, the law was live.
In 2021, the government adopted the tax on sugary drinks. I'm talking about beverages that are loaded with sugar now. We all know them, But then, it's a 10 naira per liter tax, which is really not good enough.
The global benchmark is a minimum of 20% of the retail price of sugary drinks. And some countries are even pushing it way, way higher than that. What we have in Nigeria today is not even up to 3% of the final retail price of sugary drinks products. And that's why we're asking the Nigerian government to revise what we have upward to a minimum of 20% of the final retail price of sugary drinks, so that it can serve as a deterrent in terms of reduction of consumption, as well raise revenue for government.
Let's talk about the 10 naira in your 1 liter of soda. Not a change in your pocket, the one added to your bottle of sugary drink. It's called an SSB tax, short for Sugar Sweetened Beverage Tax. Catchy, right? Not so much, but it is designed to make you think twice before you drink twice. You see, Nigeria has a sugar problem, a big one. More than 11 million people are living with diabetes, and guess what's fueling it? Fizzy, sugary drinks. That 10 naira per liter? It's supposed to help fix that. Make sodas pricier, make people think twice, and hopefully drink something less deadly. But here's the catch. In Nigeria, we have the tax, but not the teeth. We need at least 20% of the retail price to fight the health crisis caused by sugary drinks.
Currently, there's a 10 naira per liter on sugary drinks. That's the tax rate in Nigeria. And these tax rates were introduced in 2021. The rates or the prices of this product has tripled or quadrupled as of today. However, the tax rate remains fixed. It's not adjustable for inflation. It has not curbed excessive consumption of this product, and just business as usual. And that's why organizations like CAPA are pushing for an upward review of this tax rate, not just to generate revenue for government, but also to fund health initiatives.
It's called earmarking, and right now, we don't do it. Other countries, they do. France, Portugal, the UK, they use taxes on sugary drinks to fund hospitals, schools, water programs. So yes, SSB taxes work. They save lives. They build systems. If the revenue is used well, and if the industry doesn't, sugarcoat the facts.
One thing you discover about the South African is that they had very good structures in place, institutions that were all carried along in the design, in the implementation, and in the earmarking. Talking about also the UK, one that made the UK tax very significant is that not just they collecting these taxes, they have been earmarked. Earmarked meaning that this tax revenue has been dedicated for a specific use that is beneficial to populace. Because in the first place, SSB taxes are not just about revenue. SSB taxes are about reducing consumption and improve public health.
The law itself did not specifically direct the proceeds for that tax to the health sector. And that is an important element that we in the health sector will look forward to more advocacy of the public, because the whole essence is to direct proceeds from that to support health infrastructure, to support prevention, to support immunization activities.
For me, who is an advocate fighting for people living with diabetes or NCD, it will help to relieve the burden we face. Sometimes we have to organize money for people's insulin, you have to organize drugs for them. All those burdens will be reduced if the government is involved.
The campaign for a stronger tax on sugary drinks is growing, from doctors to lawyers, from economists to activists. A coalition is demanding justice through policy. But changing the system means confronting powerful multinational beverage companies that put profits before health. And that is never easy.
Since we launched this campaign, sugary drink companies have responded massively and aggressively with false narratives about how this campaign is going to cause job losses, how it's going to ruin the economy, how manufacturers are going to leave Nigeria, and all sorts of lies like that.
In an unexpected twist, sugary drinks don't just harm our health. Their plastic bottles are putting livelihoods at risk.
Taba ju net, ó máa ń disturb net wa, ó máa ń kó sínú net wa. Taba dẹ̀ ń wa engine náà, ó máa ń da engine wa dúró. Gbogbo àwọn kèyí náà taba ju net ń gbà mí. Kò yẹ kí net wa lọ sí abẹ́ omi dáadáa. Ibi táwọn kèyí bá ti pọ̀ sí jù, kò sẹ́jà ń bẹ̀. Àfi taba dé agbami, a tó free.
The huge volume of plastic you have in waste that is disposed, it's a lot, and then it bulks up the volume. On the other hand, it also clogs up the drainages, which means that we're more prone to flooding because a lot of people may be careless and drop it in our drainages. So plastic waste, one, can make waste management more difficult. Two, clog up drainages. Three, it makes our city a bit untidy, the overall perspective when you have plastic all over the place. And I think those will sort of summarize the impact of plastic waste in Lagos.
We have systematically carried out a 5-year brand audit. And what we found is not just only alarming, it sits very, very well with also studies, findings that have been carried out in other countries. And that's talking about the food and beverage industries. This sector accounts for the highest single-use plastic. Now, coming to the waste products, which is another sector of it, another problem of it is the waste products arising from these various products do not have a kind of revolving management process. So what happens? They are all just dumped in the environment.
Our regulatory capabilities have to be scaled. Will and the desire of the regulator to hold businesses accountable to appropriate standards, especially with respect to public health and safety must be prioritized. And companies, whether multinational or domestic or not, must be held accountable and penalized.
We are having a public health crisis as of today. All of us can see it. The Nigerian government can see it. And the Nigerian government needs to take very concrete action. The Nigerian government needs to be bold. The Nigerian government needs to be courageous.
In 2025, the debate reached Nigeria's National Assembly. Lawmakers began considering replacing the fat 10 naira per litre tax with a percentage-based levy tied to the retail price. Some are pushing for at least 20%, with part of the revenue set aside for public health.
We have a program we are coming up with. We are launching on healthy youth, Nigerian Healthy Youth Champions. So working with young people to create awareness, to use them as champions for health, not only at national level, but also sub-national level, up to community level. We want to have youth champions so that they begin to understand their lifestyle.
The message the presidency echoes across the springs of Ekiti: empower the young, let them lead. But from the hills of Ikogosi, a new current is rising. Young people, tired of the gimmicks, the sickness, the waste, are finding their voice. Trained intensively, workshops, policy simulations, media labs, all focused on one urgent fight: the health crisis fueled by sugary drinks and ultra-processed foods.
I will organize a lot of people like me, especially people that are physically disabled, educate them about the health effects of those sugary drinks. I will educate them on how it causes NCDs like diabetes, obesity, and others.
Before now, my idea of sugary drinks before the boot camp was that it was just sweet, it gives energy, and it makes you feel good. It was just like a feel good, something that you just take. But after the boot camp, that changed my mindset.
By week's end, the boot camp had forged more than graduates. It created a living network of food justice advocates ready to challenge Big Soda and fight for Nigeria's future. On the final day, they marched, a symbolic protest in the heart of nature, not in anger, but in faith that their voices could turn the tide.
We say the youth are the future of the country, but if these people don't even live long enough, who is going to hold our country for us in the nearest future?
Experts say Nigeria stands at a crossroads to protect the people or protect corporate profits.
Well, just to also say, and this I always say anytime I have the opportunity to speak like this, that the government will create the policy, will create the enabling environment, will provide infrastructure, and so on and so forth. But every Nigerian has a responsibility to take control of their health. Government is not going to take control of your health for you.
The leadership of the country is looking for that balance. They need the investment, they need the economy, they need to expand shared prosperity. And so, in finding that balance, the right partner will not take advantage of those.
Ayetoro community is a theocratic communist setting funded by a group of believers known as the Apostles in 1947. Ayetoro community in its heydays has the largest per capita income in the whole of West Africa. Initially, Ayetoro community was 15 to 20 kilometer landmass away from the sea. But as it stands now, more than 10 kilometers of the total landmass has gone into the sea. And this frequent surge is attributed to emission from multinational oil companies off the coasts of our land, not minding the environmental challenges and disasters.
To establish in one of the Nigeria base, a lot of people you see offshore were trained here, both mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, and nautical engineer were trained in this bush. Yes, this bush, I call this place bush. And this is the Sheko Technical Workshop approved by the IWD, which is now Minister of Transport. IWD means the Inland Waterway Department. That's the colonial time.
This place is like small London. So, and our primary occupation here is fishing. You can see now, everything now has been eroded. Some of our fishermen, they have went to other places to find for their source of livelihood.
We have been experiencing sea erosion coming every day by day. And since that time, we have been making efforts, writing letters to the federal government because we are law-abiding citizens. We believe that we cannot engage ourselves in a radical ways because we believe that by protesting, writing letters, federal government will come to our aid. By the videos, a lot of things we have been doing since we have experienced the sea church.
I'm sitting.
That area, that is the iconic worship center. Yeah, that's wood. That is the iconic worship center. Over there, we have community service center here. Over there. Then at the same time, the major streets where other minor streets were linked to has been permanently smashed by the ocean surge.
I'm worried because this recurrency surge is affecting us in virtually all human aspects of our life. Social life has collapsed, economic-wise has been collapsed, health-wise, nothing to sing and dance home about. Even our religious activities, religious life, has been collapsed totally. Because Ayeto community is a religious set. The church moved here. We have just come here to trade or to do other activities. The church is the community is the church. So every aspect of our life has been totally, damaged by this current, recurring sea surge happening in Ayeto. Over 20 years, we've been into this. People have lost, several properties worth millions. Buildings has collapsed. Over 500 to 600 to 700 buildings have been washed away. Our industrial power has been collapsed. Ayeto community is known to be a self-developed community on its own. Without any intervention of the federal government or the state government over the years, yet we kept on going. If by now the ocean surge as a result of the oil exploration that is going on in our offshore is destroying our land. Up till now, we cannot see the hand of the government coming to help to rescue us. It is so sad, and that's why I'm worried.
Ilé ló kún bẹ̀, gbogbo ilé yẹn ní òkun ó ti parẹ́ pátápátá. Bó dẹ̀ ṣe ń wó ilé yẹn tó ń wó gbogbo àwọn ohun àlùmọ́nì wa, àwọn ohun tí a ní, ilé, ohun ẹrù wa, ìmíì gan tó bá ń wo báyìí tí a bá tètè ṣàmúra àti gbà lọ́wọ́ ẹ̀, ó gbé gbogbo ẹ̀ lọ nìyẹn. Gbogbo ilé.
The trip of those guys.
Excruciating, it is extreme. In fact, every blessed day, people used to used to die because of the thinking that the community that was founded at their present has been eroded. So it is extreme, it is serious, it is harrowing.
Tell me, what's your fear? My first house happened to be the extreme house before the Atlantic Ocean. We lost it 2017. 2007, that was when we lost it. It's highly devastating. Even the one that belonged to my grandmother, we lost that along primary school road. We lost it too. So I've been affected. I'm highly devastated. Now I'm a tenant in my hometown. Imagine how is it? Highly devastated. We need support of the entire world to save this community. Ayeto community is a community that must not go into attention. It's a very serious situation.
The up and the down. So the up is reserved for the male. Why do that? Because they want them to access the sea quickly because of the occupation they engage in. Then the downside is reserved for the female so that they can drag their fishes because the Atlantic breeze is coming from the up, so that the smoke will not disturb the community from up. That was why they situated the downside for the women so that their kitchen can be downside. So you have Bale, Abejoye, Korodun, Aneroyin, Adedoyin, Alebiodun, Bishop, Arojolu. Then so after Arojolu, you have the information house or the glass house, as we used to call it.
So where's the glass house now?
It's gone already.
Some months already.
So we have the happy celebrations regarding the Ayeto community. People coming just like you came now. All the information about your trip, what you are going to do, when you are going to, you go back. So it will be documented before you go into the community. That one was how it was done there. Then the city hall or civic center, there too, all of them are gone. After the city hall, you have Ojomo Street is gone too. So behind Ojomo, you have the church building, the church street and the church building is gone already.
And that church is very important.
Very important. That is where they situated that night, January 12, 1947. They stayed when they came in. Now we have Akinjo, we have Ajayi. Then in Ajayi Street, you have the first Ogeloyinbo Palace built with wood. So that one is gone too. We have the Olowojayi. Then after Olowojayi, you have the shoe making industry.
There used to be a
shoemaking industry. One of the industry, a small scale industry. Then behind the shoemaking industry, you have a clothing making industry too. So that one too is gone. So we have after Olowojayi, behind it is the shoemaking and the clothing. We have Olowo Topa Oyinbo. We have Omogbenwa. Then after Omogbenwa, we have the carpentry workshop. So the carpentry workshop too is currently threatened. Half of it is gone into the sea. And then you have Tobase. After the Tobase street there, you have a mini supermarket. There's a mini supermarket there. So after the mini supermarket is where you have Oyetomi Street. So from the upside,
where's the mini supermarket?
This is just behind the what's called.
But it's still there.
We can still find there. So after the what's called the mini supermarket, you have Oyetomi Street. So from the main side now, from the main side, those main streets, Oyetomi Street is the only surviving street you can find up.
And it's been threatened.
It's threatened. In almost, we only have just 2 buildings.
That is where my mother's father's house was situated, and it has been eroded.
Just 2 houses.
And your fear now is that this side, the female side, might be affected. Yes. So it's like everybody has moved to this side now.
Yes. So most of the male now, they are actually residing with their wives.
With their wives.
Their wives. So the Oyetomi is the only one that we start. Then from the downside where you have the
and this broad street
is
no longer
existing. It's gone completely. It's gone completely. Where you can have the broad street, beauty of the broad street now is around the Block Palace. That's where you can have the beauty of the broad street.
Okay.
How it looks like.
All right. I think we're good with.
Church wa gangan the main church táwọn baba ńlá wa kọ́ ó ti wó àtúnkọ́ mi ó tún wó so ẹjọ́.
The church is where all the inhabitants of this land gather to worship God, because that was the revelation our forefathers received. This place is a Christian utopian religious community for the service of God.
The landscape totally, let me put it that way. Why do I say so? Is because when you look at the land mass, as at when our founding fathers came here, 1947, it is about 20 or 10, 15 kilometers to the shore. So people had to trek. I think Dr. Noge wrote a book about Ayeto community. That the only challenges that the fishermen, because Ayeto is known for fishing, only challenges that they are having, it is accessibility to the shore. Too. That is as at that time, and it's been a long time. So it has actually changed our landscape, and we are worried about it. And the technical college, here we are. Now you can see now this debris has been ravaged by the sea soil. Now, that place, that is the bakery that we are using before. This last month, the sea soil has ravaged this place and we've relocated to another place. So it is serious. That is the powerhouse generating plants. It has been affected, greatly affected by those soil. We also have dockyard over there where marine boats were built in past. That place has been submerged as well. So nothing to write home about in the community again. All our social, cultural activities has gone. The secondary schools has been relocated for about 3 consecutive times now. Nothing again.
When you relocate the water.
Urgent interventions don't come here any moment from now, the community will no longer in existence, because 2/3 of the community has gone already. You can see the church.
If something reasonable, prompt action is not taken on the part of government to salvage this land, perhaps we might. Don't pray for such anyway. The community might go in the station. We don't want that, because our community has helped the federal government, even the West Africa, in terms of marine. Because when I was having a technical school, the Ayeto community has trained experts in marine engineering, in nautical engineering, and they are serving all the multinational companies that we can see in our offshore. Ayeto community has built the largest fishing boat in the history of Nigeria and West Africa. It was built here by the local carpenter, and those people that even built those big boats, they were still alive. Check Fishing News International, is there.
Urgent action is not taken. Within a space of 2 months, where we stand here will no longer be. So, and that is why we are appealing to the federal government as a matter of urgency and exigency to please come to our rescue, so that Ayeto is a historic community, so that it will not become a thing of history. That's our appealing. We are appealing to the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, Dito Sopadec, those state oil producing area development commission, to please come to our rescue, so that this glorious community will not become a thing of history.
Tell me about this school. The federal government are begging the international community, we are begging NDDC, we are begging all relevant agencies to please come to our aid.
Thank you very much.
Kàn jọ kó má jẹ́ kó kún yìí kó gbé wa lọ, gbogbo ilé iṣẹ́ wa, gbogbo ilé ìsìn tá ń pè church, gbogbo ẹ̀ ló ti wó. Tí ẹ bá wo.
To the state government, federal government and the world to give what you call immediate action on this community. If you were here about 7 years, about 20 years back, if you tell the extension of this place, you can't believe. And here,
when we think about peacekeeping, it often seems like peacekeeping missions are failing. But if we looked systematically across the record, most of the time, peacekeeping works. What I wanted today is to explain how peacekeepers do this. We have 16 peer-reviewed studies right now that all show the same thing. Peacekeepers save lives. They reduce the likelihood that civil wars will recur. They also help to achieve peace agreements. Where there's a promise of peacekeepers, we are more likely to see peace agreement and peace agreements that stick. If we look at the completed missions since the end of the Cold War, 2/3 of the time, peacekeepers have been successful at implementing mandates and departing. That's not to say that in all of those cases, everything is perfect in the countries, but it is to say that they're no longer at war. This idea of using troops from lots of different countries, not to fight and win wars, but to help to keep the peace, was born during the peace negotiations in the Middle East in 1948. This idea was an innovation in human history. One of the main creators of UN peacekeeping is Dr. Ralph Bunche. Ralph Bunche was an American diplomat. For his work at the United Nations, he won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1950. He and others came up with this idea of peacekeeping, that what troops would do is they would deploy impartially, so they would not take sides. They would deploy with the consent of the belligerents, so the belligerents would actually ask peacekeepers to help them implement peace agreements. India is a country that has experienced tremendous hardship. It's had multiple colonial rulers. It's had a genocide. It's been victim of regional war, of civil war. But surprisingly, Namibia has not fallen victim to this tremendously difficult history. At the end of the Cold War, there was a complex and highly innovative UN peacekeeping mission, 4% women, and the main form of power they exercised was persuasion. Peacekeepers were there to help reform the political system. Nobody had ever voted in an election before. Peacekeepers were helping to inform citizens of their rights, of what it means to elect their own leaders.
We are very proud. This is an important moment for us, but a historic moment for the Namibian people. That for the first time in 105 years, they are able to sit down, their leaders are able to sit down together and deliberate on the future for their country.
In the complex missions in civil wars, peacekeepers are not only monitoring ceasefire lines, they are also helping to rebuild the basic institutions of the state. They're helping to demobilize troops. They help reform judicial systems, economic systems, so that when people have disputes, they don't have to resort to violence to resolve them. We know that there is a problem of sexual exploitation and abuse in peacekeeping. The UN has been taking measures to prevent peacekeepers from committing acts of sexual violence. Some people have been fired. Entire battalions have been sent home. We now have mechanisms to make sure that victims feel safe to report peacekeepers' sexual abuse and exploitation. If we look at Lebanon as another example, the primary form of power that peacekeepers exercise and continue to exercise today is inducement. On one side of the border, we have the Israeli Defense Forces. On the other side of the blue line, we have Hezbollah and other armed actors. And in the midst of all this, we have thousands of UN peacekeepers.
I love my job. I have passion for mine action. One reason is to give confidence back to the community, the landowners, the stakeholders that yes, indeed, this area has been cleared. And if I can save one life, that means I succeeded.
UN peacekeepers help to keep the peace, not because anyone fears them, but they do see the advantage of having UN peacekeepers, reducing people to move toward peace. I've seen myself peacekeepers in action. For example, in southern Lebanon, we often see peacekeepers patrolling on foot. They walk around the local communities, they visit the markets, they talk to people, they'll talk to the imam, they'll talk to other local leaders, they'll set up a medical clinic or provide dentistry services. They also provide a lot of employment in southern Lebanon. If we look systematically across the cases, peacekeepers are helping people in their everyday lives move from a situation where there's war and violent conflict to a situation where there's more peace.